right, here we go. This is for January 5th and the following 7 days. January 5th, 2026. Okay. We have Saturn, we have Pluto, we have Jupiter, and we have so much more. There is a lot to talk about. So let's back this chart up. The year has changed, but the nodes have not. They do change halfway throughout the year. They're already down to 10. I want you to keep in mind that the 10 degrees is a Saturn degree. And it stays at 10 this entire week. It doesn't move to 9, not this week. It will get there, but not this week. So just keep that in mind, because that is for your south node and your north node. Duty, responsibility, very serious energy, thinking long term. What's the long term end game? What's the goal? That's Saturn. Saturn's constantly thinking about the steps it has to take to reach the goal. Very burden, I already said serious, but it feels even very heavy. But then look at your Capricorn. Huge stellium in Capricorn. So this adds to even more the serious tone, more serious energy. This is corporations. Business, corporations, government. This is big energy, boss energy, CEO energy. What's the bottom line? Very serious. And unfortunately, with this energy, if it's not expressing like in a high manner, which I think usually we see it expressing in the acquisition of something. We're working towards and we're building something, and it's very structured energy, very structured, material, tangible. Again, something you can hold in your hand. Wood. It's an earth sign, right? It's Capricorn. We have partnerships and communications, money and values. So talking, communication, very serious communications. There is a plan. The hierarchy in there, right? The management team, lots of levels. I always talk about Capricorn, Capricorn, Saturn, like we're climbing the rungs of the ladder. That's what we're thinking about, our long-term goals. This is to create stability, our success, our material financial security. That's what you're doing with your Capricorn energy. So it's always focused on that long-term building and the long-term commitments. Very serious. And it wants to build something that's going to last. So this is job, this is career, this can be any business, serious business, long-term committed partnership. It's material and tangible, so it's going to be something that you're working towards to build together. You have an authority figure. You have the sun here. And Venus is there. And so this is a big story for this whole week, is Venus and the sun traveling together. But that's not all. You have Mars. Mars is at 16. It's just to start off the week. Now, without going by degree, shortcut version of all of this is a stellium in Capricorn. And that includes Venus and the sun and Mars for this entire week. So in other words, this stellium can create support and very grounded energy, which really creates major stability with all the earth energy, with your Virgo and your Taurus energy. Very stable energy. It's going to trine nicely, right? It was already trining the south node, and that would have been last week's video, right? But now we're getting higher up in the numbers. So for this week, it is support to the earth signs. Saturn, Capricorn energy, sending strong support between 14 and 23 degrees for these next 7 days. So it's very stabilizing. We feel more grounded, more secure. We seem to be getting a foothold. We don't seem to be flailing about in the water or uncertain. Like Capricorn is very serious. And with all this energy there, even though with the sun there, this is technically Cazimi energy for Venus and Mars. And that's kind of what the beauty is with the sun in Capricorn, is that Venus is my desires, my love, my values, my sensual side of life. So these will kind of take a back seat because the sun kind of, takes control here. Think of the sun as the father figure and Venus kind of as the daughter in a sense in Capricorn energy. Venus is very smart in Capricorn. She's aligned her values for focused on the long haul, the long term. The sun being the authority figure is like, well, these are the rules. This is what we're doing. Rules, Capricorn energy. And then Mars, taking action. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So this can be a wonderful time for taking actions, not just thinking about them, but we are taking actions. Mars in Cappy. We're going to be seeing, right? We are going to be feeling the material and the tangible. And we're going to be working hard toward, because Mars is extremely disciplined. Mars is not a loose cannon in Capricorn, which is wonderful. Mars has the Saturn discipline to be more tempered, to be less impulsive, and to be standing pretty much ready at a moment's notice, basically waiting for its orders. That's what Mars does. It's a trained soldier, basically. This is a Mars who, in my mind, is really strong physically, but also has the wherewithal to think long term and to understand its role. It knows that it takes action, but it's the action that's coming from higher up. Okay, so super supportive for the earth signs. And there's going to be some stress and some tension to Libra and Aries energy. And it's at the same degrees. It's square energy, so it's going to start 14 to 23, 24 degrees for these next 7 days. It's stress and tension. It's not a huge event in that it will not last long. None of these planets are going to be doing a retrograde here in Capricorn, so it's going to be fine, but it's just understanding that, the sun is boss energy. For some folks, significant one-on-one relationships, your Libra energy, and having, stress and tension coming from somebody who's an authority figure, whether that's a spouse, whether that's a parent, whether that's a boss at the job, someone who has authority. And then same with Aries energy, with our freedoms, right? And us wanting to do what we want to do when we want to do it. Between 12 and 24 degrees this week, there will be some stress and tension. Okay. At the same time, for the earth, you're getting this significant support. So it might kind of be a welcome, actually. There might be something here where we're feeling like, okay, I can get behind this. Sure, wasn't my idea. Sure, somebody's saying yes or no, or these are the new rules, or these are the changes I'm making, but I feel like it's something I might be able to get behind because I can see the logic in it. It's practical. I can connect the dots. It aligns with my values. It's about the long-term goals. And so, yeah, let's do this. Now, with all that said, Pluto starts the week at 2, but it doesn't end there. This week, Pluto will go from 2 degrees, the money degree, the desire degree, we think Venus, and with group energy, Aquarius. So it's group energy, friends, but what kind of groups exactly? People of power, right? So usually this elite power, major wealth, authoritarian type of power. Oh, it is suddenly extremely freezing in here. Because this was values and money and banking. 3 degrees takes us to the mind, to the communication, to the news. So it's going to flip. It's going to flip. And that will be on the 9th. On the 9th of January, it flips. Now, there's a couple of other things here that are happening this week. That happens on the 9th, okay? As this week moves along, actually the very next day, we have Jupiter making a change. On the 10th, Jupiter goes from the Scorpio degree, Jupiter, judgments, lawyers, the justice system, the judicial system, courtrooms. It's also travel. It's also public figures. It's beliefs. This would be members of Congress, I said public figures, politicians specifically, politicians. And this Scorpio degree of the past, of shared wounds from the past, things that occurred in the past. And we know this is immigration. This has been a huge deal. ICE, the ICE crap that's been going on in the United States. So we go from 20 degrees, which is the Pluto and Mars energy, so which would mean this might have been difficult having Jupiter at that degree and exaggerating it and blowing it up, and not exaggerating as in making shit up and adding to the story, but going full throttle, like going big while Jupiter was at 20. Okay, with that, I don't even know what to call it anymore. Local terrorism, domestic terrorism. Here we go, 19 degrees. On the 10th, it goes to 19 degrees, and this puts a focus on partnerships, but also on the law, also on equality, the courtroom, Lady Liberty. So Jupiter goes to 19 degrees, and it's still in retrograde. Remember, Jupiter's going to stay there in a retrograde. It goes back to 15 degrees. At the same time this week, we have Uranus at 27 degrees, and this Uranus is strong. So keep this in mind. This is Earth. Remember, we talked about the Earth and how we were going to have support, right? And it is going to be very supportive, but it won't be without some changes or disruptions, because all that stuff in Capricorn, not this week, but the following week, you'll see that follow-up video. We're going to talk about the Venus, the Sun, the Mars, how they're all going to start aspecting, how they're all going to start having a conversation with Uranus. And Uranus will still be at 27 degrees. News, communication, talking, what we're learning, disruptions, values. This is going to be big because this Uranus is at a snail's pace. It's not moving fast at all. It is getting ready to go direct. But the direct motion won't happen until February 4th. But it's at 27 degrees and 27 minutes that this Uranus will stand still and go direct. So that's a little time away. You know, we're a little under a month from that. But it's creeping along at 27. So we're going to probably hear lots of shocks and surprises with money, with values, and a change and a swing in values. A swing in values has been happening. I've seen in all these charts, there's a change in the public sentiment. And it started happening in 2025, for sure. But it's really obvious now in that all the full moons are at the moon degree, the public degree, and you just see things changing. You see like an about face is what I'm hearing, taking an about face. So with that, we have to realize that this Jupiter energy and the Pluto energy and the Saturn energy up here at the top. Pluto is deep changes. And it was with the values. Remember, it started at 2 this week. And Jupiter, public figures, politicians. So however the change is made, whether these people retire, whether there are special elections, because I can only speak about what we're going through in the States. I have a hard enough time understanding that shit. Like there's changes being made. And so absolutely, especially since we're at the Libra degree Congress members for sure, and public figures as in presidents, authoritarians globally around the world, people with big positions of power, anyone who's abused their power. We'll see. got to take this with a grain of salt in a way because, those wheels of justice creep very slowly. When Venus takes on that very serious role, she is definitely less daydreamy like. She is more focused. She is way more serious and goal orientated. And it looks like a wake-up call. It looks like a wake-up call.